Hey guys, hello everyone, Daily Bitcoin Review and BitoCheck just updated the $65,000 mark and we're just over 5% movement away from an all-time high. Boom! It's just a pattern breaker, and naturally many people now have a question: when to finally open a chart position, when to catch the market reversal. Looking ahead, I want to answer right away, guys. You should never in any case try to chart in such a market. There is no sense and no profit in it, even if at some point of time you will be right. The correct position is to look for long entry points, and the question we should be asking today is where to long Bitcoin, where to buy it back, and what other assets we are interested in terms of potential growth. We'll talk about that today, especially given the fact that many of the alts I reviewed last month have finally started to actively grow. Some of them have already given very big moves. So we'll definitely take a look at all of them now. Let's move on to the chart. The Bitcoin is flying upwards, and this morning, I just want to start with that. I calculated in one of my Telegram channels that, look, now the price is going upwards without a roll. The amount of interest in longs is greater than the amount of interest in shorts. Accordingly, big capital has certain tasks, and it is much more profitable for it to organize a kind of long squeeze, i.e., to overturn the price, and only after that to continue the upward movement rather than to drag the price up from the current level. Guys, I would like to emphasize here, because it seems to me that this is an important point, and you need to understand that when we are talking about Bitcoin, about a coin with a capitalization of $1 trillion fucking dollars, it does not work like that. And no, it's not like some group of people, in a Telegram chat like, okay guys, well, the price is already 65.5. I think we should drop somewhere at 58, and then we'll draw a bull flag. Then we'll go up from it. We'll come to the historical high. Then we'll roll back to the 0.5 level on FIBA. It doesn't work that way. No amount of capital is enough to manipulate the market that way. And if right now, right at this very second, someone comes and sells $1 billion worth of Bitcoins into the market, of course, you and I will see some small candle, but it will not be a collapsed market just drenched in blood, because there is a very large capitalization, and no large capital today can do such a thing. You have to have some unlimited amount of money. Of course, when we talk about coins with a capitalization of $10 or $15 million, you can draw anything you want. You can draw any kind of structure, anything you want, because you are free to manage. When we talk about Bitcoin, you know what we should be more interested in? We should be interested in the psychology of people, retail, and big capital. We should be interested in the psychology of people, retail, and big capital. This is an important point that I wanted to bring to your attention, because many people think that someone has already dragged us in, and now it is profitable for big capital to unload. Who says it's now? Why not at 100? Why not at 300? You get it, don't you? Thoughts? If you understand, please give us a like. Write in the comments what is clear. Now we are moving on to the most interesting part of the review. It may be a long review. Before that, a traditional important reminder. My dear ones, if you trade, always trade on a quality exchange. Especially in the current market, it is just especially important. I love the Bybit exchange. My teams trade on the Bybit exchange. Our community trades on the Bybit exchange. So if you don't have an account on this exchange, I strongly advise you to sign up, give it a try. My link and my promo code under this video, the most favorable commission terms and up to $30,000 in bonuses on your first deposit. I strongly advise you to try a couple of days just to trade. If you trade on some other exchange, you will understand the difference. And I think you will get high just like we do. You got it? Great, let's move on. So, let's take a look at the situation. Look, we have a fear and greed index of 82. And I want to show you this chart below. Look, the blue line is the Bitcoin price and the black line is the fear index. Notice that at the moment when we had Bitcoin at the maximum marks on the previous high, yes, right here, look, I'm opening it now. Right here, we had the fear and greed index at 83, 84. And then we went into a long peak all the way down to $15,000. Does that tell us that there's a 100% chance of that happening again? No, of course it doesn't. But we have to realize that we are actually in such an important zone. So the most important thing here is just to turn on your head, not to get into euphoria and to take risks. Then everything will be fine, and then you can actually make a lot of money on the current movements. Now let's look at specific positions. We are flying. We have a little bit left to the historic high. If there is a removal of this liquidity, if there is a removal of this zone, the dump could be big, really big. I showed you last week when the index, we discussed it. Remember, yes, when we had the historical high renewal in the previous cycle, the growth was unstoppable and very, very strong. So keep it in your mind. Given, look, and now importantly, given that we're near an all-time high, given that we're at very high levels of the fear and greed index, you know what question you need to ask? What happens to my portfolio if price makes a 25 to 30% move in one direction, up or down? Here's regardless, you have to not then go into a month-long depression or even more so a multi-year depression. Yes, you can lose locally, but you must still keep the balance of risk and profit. Keep that in mind. Now let's get specific. Bitcoin entry points. Accordingly, we just made a local high. On the small time frame now, let's see. We have formed a support level here, please. This is the zone of 61,800 respectively. The return here, we can look for long positions. On the small time frame, ideally, as usual, to see the breakdown and then open a position. Further, we go lower. If we look at the daily time frame and take this impulse, we have from the current high to this zone to the zone of $58,000, just perfectly lies 05th, 06th, 18th levels on the fib. Accordingly, it is also a long level for us. So when coming here again, we can look for long positions. Below this mark of 51,940, this is the volume of the main structure, which we stood for a long time. And below, accordingly, everything has not changed in terms of meaning. An important point. Now we have a lot of long levels formed from below. We are growing with you without a traverse. It is crazy to short just cross until we have fallen below $37,000, $38,000. It does not make sense. Is it possible that, for example, we come to some level and we just pass it and go lower? Yes, there is such a possibility. But you should understand that mathematically, even, let's just imagine the situation. So you opened a long here, it was taken out by a stop and went lower. You opened a long here, it was taken out by a stop and went lower. You opened a long here and here, finally the market turned around and you entered the position. Mathematically, your risk reward is going to be much greater in a long now than in a short, just mathematically. This is a very important thing to understand today. So it's much more profitable to get stops on longs with very high upside potential than it is to get stops on shorts with limited upside potential. I think that's clear. We're locked in. Good, good, good. Bitcoin is clear. Let's move on to the alts, my dears, because of course we have very interesting things there. So, Ether, Ether, Ether. By the way, note that Ether is already higher on SME than on the crypto exchange, so Ether on the crypto exchange will catch up. I'm going to open this week right away. You and I have passed zone A 3372. Guys, to whom everything is clear, to whom it is useful, do not be lazy, stick likes, write me about it in the comments. It's very, very, very important to me. So, we've got a zone 3372 on the air. That's the zone we had. Now, accordingly, we have come to this high. It's an important level for us too. Not a bad setup. If we consolidate here on the air, above this level, we can open a long position with targets in the range of $4,000. That is approximately this scenario. It would be ideal to see, of course, the consolidation at least there on the 4-hour chart, or better on the daily chart. If we see it, let's go. What could be a problem? In fact, only one thing can become a problem, a strong spill in Bitcoin. That's why you must respect the risks. In what way? If you are in longs and you have an open position on Bitcoin, on Ether, on 3 alts, you have to understand how much risk you have for the week. For example, if you enter each position with a risk of, let's say 1%, you have 5 positions open. That's a risk on your positions of 5% total. If everything is open long, you have to assume that if the market goes down, you will probably get 5 stops on all these positions. And here it is very important how much risk you have, for example, for a week. How much of a loss can you take in a week? If it's 5%, you can't keep more than 5 long positions open at one time. If it's 10%, no more than 10. I mean, of course, you want to turn on the euphoria and open longs on all the coins you have on hand. But keep in mind that if Bitcoin gives minus 30% with one candle, all these positions can go down. Do you get it? I hope you do, because this is an important point. So let's move on. Accordingly, look further. I told you about it on the air. Now let's move on to the next alts. I shot 2 reviews a month ago in which I gave some coins. And now we will actually go through them with you. Starting with the energy card and Hellas. Oh, I even have some sketches left. I've been watching exactly a month ago. That was the story. This is actually the beginning of what's already happening. Check it out. ADA Energy Cardano has given since then, guys, already very, very good moves. Since the review, please take a look. X2. That being said, our targets are even higher. I think we can at least aim for this range here. And if everything goes well and the Bitcoin does not collapse, we can go higher. Please. That is, even from the current levels, we still have a potential of 60% to 70%. Next, for example, the DOT. The same story. It was just one review. I analyzed several of these coins there. Since the review, we have already gained 60 to 70%. The targets are also higher and the potential is still there. In my opinion, at least a percent. Well, another 100%, let's say. Let's open it up from here. Cake. Here the situation is not so developed yet, but there are also certain preconditions. I'm going to clear this up now. In my opinion, we can go somewhere in this zone. And if everything works out well, it's a 150% move. I bought these coins a little bit at a time. In fact, I continue to hold them. Just watch them closely. Remember, I explained to you the idea that Bitcoin has a structure. And here we had a structure. Now here we have this one that went down. And there are alts that are hanging out in this zone. And we need to look for alts that are aiming at these marks. And that's where it's going to be fine. Next are the alts that I told you guys about. There was also a separate review. I gave a few coins. Ladies proper, gilt. Please also look for open and review. The movements have started. Already given good movements by these alts. And in fact, the potential is still unexplored. Here's ladies. Gilt, and please be optimistic. Watch the reviews. Look for. Because it makes sense to watch these coins now. Here you go. Plus, let's look at another coin with you that, on the contrary, has potential so far. It's a token. It's a token coin. This is the second Floki coin. I think all flocks remember. Anyone who was on the previous cycle remembers. Look, this thing is super high risk, but I think it makes sense to watch maybe. What we have so far is this thing. I mean, there's a big structure forming. The potential of this thing is uncharted. It's impossible to go in with any kind of large volume. But given what we've seen with the flock, just take a note of this coin, altcoin right here. I'm like, look, here's the range. If we come to somewhere 0304, right here, I'm going to pick up this coin. A very small percentage is super mega high risk. It's just a little bit of a cushion. And finally, so I'm talking a lot today. It's been 12 minutes. Let's summarize. Look, if we're taking the market cap, guys, you have to realize that we've gone through this zone already. This zone right here. If you and I open the market cap, cleaned out of Bitcoin, we're way down. We have not come to this high or this high, which means we still have a margin of upside potential left across the market of 40%. That's good news. The only thing that can stop us is some kind of black swan. But it makes no sense, in my opinion, to sit waiting for a black swan and expect the market to turn around now when our stock market, I would like to remind you, is updating its historical maximums and continues to go up. The most important thing is that trade from the long side, observe risk management. And if the market turns around, then we will talk. By the way, the S&P 500 is at 4,600. If, for example, S&P 500 goes under 4,600, then it is a bad sign. Bitcoin is at $37,000, $38,000. Until then, I don't know. I think it's just absurd to wait for some kind of apocalypse, even if it happens. There's a lot more to say, actually. I have a few more interesting notes here, but I'll probably save them for the next review, or I'll tell them on Telegram. That's it, my dears. Everything you need to know today to get the maximum profit on the market. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell to not miss the latest issues, and of course, your support is the most important thing for me. Likes, comments, feedback fly into my heart. I just opened the latest reviews. I see 2,000 likes. My heart is happy. My soul rejoices in emotions. I prepare interesting content for you. I share energy with you. It's always the most beautiful thing. So don't be lazy. Stick it in. Bye-bye, Tigers. Hugs to all of you. Big profit to all of you. Bye-bye.